Today, we live in the 21st century. That's the age of globalization. Every single thing is connected. Everything is connected. It's mainly technology that's done that, but everything we do is connected. It's almost as if there are no more countries. Everything that happens in one country, sooner or later, has an impact on things in other countries. That's the 21st century world. And that world of globalization has succeeded in making all of our problems 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse, 1,000,000 times worse. We live in an age of very thoroughly globalized problems. All of the simple problems we used to suffer from in the last century are now huge problems because they're globalized problems. No country can any longer fix any of those big problems. America can't fix climate change, it's too big. Mexico can't fix drug trafficking, it's too big. You hit it in Mexico, it pops up somewhere else. Italy can't fix migration, it's too big. Not even the European Union can fix migration. China can't fix pandemics. No country can fix any problems. Conclusion? We need to collaborate, obviously. We need to work together. Otherwise, these problems, which are multiplying every year that passes, are going to finish all of us. And they're going to finish us pretty soon. So we need to collaborate more, and we need to compete a little bit less. So that's the problem of the world we live in today. But the countries, the nations, they still behave as if it was the 17th century. They're still basically not working together, but basically competing against each other. When we send our politicians off to the G7 or to the United Nations, what are they going there to do? They're not really going there to fix the world. They're going there to fight and to compete and to come back with the best deal they can get for their people, even if that means screwing over everybody else. This, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. A world of 21st century problems organized with 17th century nations. Now, my day job is I advise governments, and I've spent the last 20 years or so going around the world trying to advise governments on how they can be a little bit more open to the world that we live in, how they can collaborate a little bit more and compete a little bit less. I've even succeeded in proving to some of them that the best kind of competition is collaboration. The more you collaborate, the more money you make. But I realized after doing this for 20 years that I'd been 933 before the world really seriously started to change. And we started to seriously lose the habit of competing nation against nation against nation. So I stopped. And I thought to myself, okay, those governments don't listen to me, but who do they listen to? Answer, they listen to people. The democratic ones, obviously, because they need to be elected. But even the non-democratic governments, they care terribly about what their populations think. And so I thought to myself, it's time for me to stop doing this in private. It's time for me to start getting the help of a few friends, the general populations, the voters, the citizens. Because if they go to their governments and they say, we don't want to be competitive anymore, we don't want to be richer than everybody else, that's less important than living in a stable, just, and prosperous world. If the people go to their governments and say, things have changed, grow up, then maybe they will. Maybe they'll listen. Because things have changed. And most governments just haven't got the message yet. They're still doing what they've always done. They're still basically running countries the way that countries have been run for the last 500 years, according to a very traditional mandate, which says, I am a government. My responsibility is to look after the interests of my own people and to look after the interests of my own slice of territory. My view, and I hope you agree with me, is that that idea is now dead. It can't work any longer. I see that we now have a new dual mandate, which all governments must begin to follow and to understand. And the dual mandate says this: everybody in power has responsibility for their own people and for every man, woman, and child on the planet. They have responsibility for their own territory. You're gorgeous. I hadn't even finished. Give me a chance to do the second half, then you can clap. So they're now responsible for every man, woman, and child on the planet. Second thing, they're not just responsible for their own territory, they are responsible for every single square centimeter of the world's surface and the atmosphere above it. That is the new mandate for all politicians and all leaders, and that's what we've got to show them. Because only if we show them that will they change. So I've done two things to try to start to get this message across and to get the ball rolling. The first thing I did when I spoke at the TEDxSalon in Berlin nearly a year ago was to launch an index. I love data, I'm a geek. And I launched something called the Good Country Index. The Good Country Index does exactly what it says on the label. It measures how good countries are. It measures, as closely as you can measure, what each country on Earth contributes to the rest of humanity and to the rest of the planet. And it produces some pretty surprising results. And all over the world, I've had people writing to me and saying, my God, I had no idea my country contributed so little to the world. One or two people said, I had no idea my country contributed so much. I had a lot of angry Americans writing to me, asking why the United States, which is after all the greatest contributor to humanity in history, bar none, only came 21st. Okay, it might have been a little tactless of me to release it on Independence Day. I swear it was an accident. Actually, 21st is really a very good position. If you're in the top 25 or the top 30 countries in terms of your contribution to humanity, you can hold your head up high and you can say, yeah, I'm proud to be American because my country gives more than it takes. We're not a free rider. So that was the index. And the response to the index was extraordinarily touching. The first thing that happened was that the video of the talk I gave in Berlin went viral, and it hit 1 million views in about a week. And the nice people at TED said, this has never happened before with a useless video. And I said, what do you mean a useless video? And they said, oh, technical description. A useful video is the one that tells you how to win friends and influence people. Useless ones are the ones like yours that just moan about the state of the world. Well, apparently no useless video had ever hit 1 million so quickly. The next thing I did was kind of an inspiration, maybe a terrible mistake, but I was giving another talk at TEDx Amsterdam late last year in about November. And I got nearly to the end, and I could see the clock ticking, and I realized I got 3 minutes left, and I thought, I better think of something else to say. So I kind of decided then and there that I was going to launch a party. So I announced that I was launching the world's first non-political, non-party, the Good Country Party. And everybody got very excited and tried to join up. And many, many, many tens of thousands of people tried to join the party that night, and the website fell over, and it was all kind of embarrassing. But it showed me something really, really important, and that is there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way that I do. And I thought, this is cool. This is better than sex. There are a lot of people there who really, really agree with me. So I took a look. I told you I was a data geek. I took a look at a wonderful survey, which is called the World Values Survey. And every year, it goes around and it asks a huge number of people, a huge number of questions about their values, their standards, their morals, their cultural perspective on the world. And I picked out all the questions in that survey together with my friend Robert Govers, and we tried to estimate how many people in the world really feel as if they are global citizens. How many people in the world really think that what goes on internationally is just as important to them as what goes on nationally? How many people in the world are getting a little bit sick of domestic politics? How many people, when there's an election in their own country, are puzzled that these kind of overgrown school children in their parliaments are squabbling about incredibly unimportant things very often, and yet they pick up the newspaper and they see that we've broken the weather and the planet is melting and people are killing each other and the world is quite obviously fucked, and yet the election is all about who's going to fight for a 1% pay rise for our nurses or our doctors, which is incredibly important, but it cannot be the most important thing. So I added all these numbers together and I discovered, to my surprise, there are about 10% of the world's population who already agree 100% with everything I've just said, who agree 100% that they want to go to their politicians and say, I want to live in a good country. I don't want to live in a successful country. I want to live in a world that's peaceful and prosperous and that collaborates. 10%. Now, 10% sounds like a pretty small percentage, but you turn 10% into the world's population, and that's 700 million. And a man called Napoleon Bonaparte once said an interesting thing. He said, "Small armies can defeat large armies if only their soldiers march exactly in step." 700 million people marching exactly in step, we can change the world. And we must. We must. So we are the beginning of 700 million. The Good Country Party, well, if you don't like politics, you can say it's not a political party. A party is a place where you stand around and have drinks, and you meet friends, and you meet new people. That's what we can do if that's what you want. But basically, we need to get to that number. We need to get 700 million people who will be the best organized small army in the history of the world. And even though we're small, we are immensely powerful. And we can go to any government anywhere in the world, any company, any organization, any group of people, and we can say, things have changed and you must change with them. And this is how you need to change. You need to turn down the competition, turn up the collaboration, because we, the people, we want it. Are you ready to help me do that? Because I need a lot of help. How we're going to get 700 million people the same way that you get any larger number of people together. I talk to you, you talk to your friends, they talk to their friends, and we'll get to 700 million before you can do that. That's what I'd like you to do. I want you to go and tell your friends. And I also want you to join. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't require anything. For the time being, you won't even get very much back from it. But all you do is you go on your computer or on your phone, and you go to a website. It's like this, www.good.country. And you say, yes, I want to join. That's all that happens. When we're 700 million, we are going to unfuck this planet. Thank you.